What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fourth and 15 with Mel and Smooth. I am Mel. Joining me, as always, is the Georgia fan himself, Ronnie Big Smooth Hennigan. Smooth, what's up, man?
Hey, not a whole lot, bro. And yes, I do like that introduction. The Georgia fan, or the only one
Yeah,
you probably know, we'll say that. You know,
you're not, but you're the most flamboyant with it. I'll say that.
yeah, man, gotta support, man. Hey, well, look, hey, here's the good news though. All of our teams won this weekend. I don't think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
happened in a long time when all the teams
Don't.
actually won the same weekend. So,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
there it is, man.
All right.
I'm feeling
Without
good.
without any further ado, we'd like to introduce our guest tonight. Former and forever 92 Olympian, gold medalist, Olympus himself, Herb Perez. Herb, how you doing?
Gentlemen, how you doing? Nice, thank you, and always good and a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, now, Herb, we weren't going to tell you this until now, and this is the perfect time to tell you. We have a little surprise for you. There were some people who knew about you, and
Hmm.
they wanted to say hi. So, without further ado, there's one, there is two, boom.
Let me see.
Yo,
I got. What's going on, Mister
hey, how are you?
Eric Betts? Oh, how you doing, Christine? Panther, what's up?
what's
What's up,
up, Herb?
Panther?
What's
I,
up,
wa- I watch you.
Christy?
Hello.
Well, the Panther is my he is my Hollywood Kung Fu Sifu. So he's the one that taught me everything I knew and everything that I could do. He was the reason I survived WMC Masters. And then of course, Christine and I go way back. She's one of my macho teammates. It's a pleasure to see you both.
Same
You
here.
Likewise,
guys
man. Likewise.
you guys look
Well,
awesome.
Thanks, man. I'm trying
So
to
do
hold on.
you.
well, we
It's
figured
been
we'd do.
forever, man. It's been a long time.
Too long. Too
Yeah,
long. I don't think I've heard more about you on Facebook and your son. Congratulations on all that outstanding stuff and his acceptance to college, of course. And
Thanks,
then
man.
Christine, I see you doing all your stuff. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. It's been I think that's why I tried to start growing this out because it was trying to compensate. But yeah, it was a stressful time. Okay, you had the whole coronavirus on top of it all. It was a tricky time trying to figure out how this was all
Uh,
going to work in college, but
Hmm.
it all
a
worked
yeah,
out.
horrible time.
How's
yeah.
California?
Yeah.
California's okay. I mean, Eric's here too, and it's not New York. It's different. The people are quite different. But I think this is an interesting time for all of us. I mean, it really is. As martial artists, the question is, what do we do with what we've been handed? We teach and we preach that perseverance, determination, patience, and that sort of stuff. And this is truly a life test and a testament to that because it's just one shot after the other.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Still
Well,
teaching though? Still running the school in class,
You know,
in person?
yeah, we're still doing what we do. We have as Eric knows, they shut everything down here for quite some time. In June, we were able to open under children's activities, and so we've been fortunate to teach a limited number of people. But it's challenging. People are petrified.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're wary. They don't want to train. If they do want to train, they want to be safe, and it's a tough time to choose health and fitness and mental fitness over death. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it interesting times.
A lot of the schools around here and by my way are teaching classes in their parking lots. Some of them are meeting out at parks now just to try to make the
Right.
families feel safer. And it's been crazy, man.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, we're fortunate that a couple of our locations have outdoor parking lots, and so we can open up. One of our locations has 100 square feet of doors to the outside,
Nice,
but it's
nice.
it's it's challenging. It's challenging for sure.
Yeah, we have about maybe 2 more weeks or maybe three that we can do that, and then we're gonna be freezing our butts off. So
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well,
yeah.
hey,
that's
man, why she had to say that? I just thought about that. It is about to get
I know it's
cold.
for us too. Yeah, Ohio is not, man,
Well,
same
classes at
situation.
night. I mean, even
Ohio,
though it was like been like 70s during the day, but by the time 6 o'clock rolls around, it's getting nippy. So it's starting already.
Yeah.
It's getting nippy. There's that
Yeah.
Bostonian accent I love so much, girl. It's getting nippy.
Nippy.
Herb, how's
See
the
you guys
family?
light up. This is awesome.
Family's always good. You know, my son is 11. I mean, well, actually 12 now. My daughter will be turning 11. So he's a great athlete, good student. She's a great student. She likes athletics. So they're really good kids. I think it's a tough time for all kids to be schooled at home. Very challenging. You know, sit in a seat for a while. So I mean, other than that, and then I saw your son, Christina. Is he still competing?
Not competing. He actually was on a big Netflix show and stuff, and he's running schools. So
what was it? What was the Netflix show?
The Society.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. He was supposed to just do a stunt on there, and they really liked him, so they wrote him in as a character, and was supposed to have a much bigger role on season 2, and they just like 2 weeks ago canceled it because their main actors come from Australia. So
well, it's a challenging time for the industry if you're in the industry to just work in general. And there's a lot of opportunities that were there before that. I think I had seen a lot of our good friends are doing a lot of great work, but now I think it's just extremely challenging.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I have signs that I stand outside with that says "We'll flip for money."
There you go. Well, you know, those are still my favorite Eric Betts memories. You know, Eric used to have this awesome jacket that we were all jealous of. It was a Power Ranger jacket, and when people would see it, they'd go, "Why do you have a Power Ranger jacket?" He goes, I'm a Power Ranger. And they go, "Do something." And then he'd do a totally like in the air backflip and kick a tree. And I was just like, if I could do that, I would do that all the time. I'd just be standing around and doing that everywhere.
There goes Herb again.
I can't do it. I can't do it. My son can do a front handspring, but I mean a front whatever that is, flip.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to send him to you because he needs to be trained. I don't want him to break his neck.
Let's do it, man. I'm going to send my son to you so he can stop learning Hollywood Kung Fu and learn the real deal.
Stop. He doesn't
I can make
him
look good. I told my son, if you follow me, I'll make you look good getting your butt kicked. That's about it, man.
I still have an awesome picture of all of you. I have an awesome picture of all of you guys at this school. And then I have an awesome picture of you when you were a ninja on a shoot, when it was you and I, and all of us were jumping and flying and kicking. It was actually your friend who took the shot.
Oh, really?
That photographer. Yeah, it was a photographer friend of yours.
Bruce.
Correct. Yeah. So
yeah,
I was looking at that the other day.
That's crazy, man.
Well, unfortunately, it was the night.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What about Norm and those guys? Where are they? Norman.
So Dan Hupp, who was the second line director and the editor, Dan is out here with me, and so after the show, we had started a production company that did Michael Phelps. We shot Michael Phelps.
Sweet.
You know, and people like that, and we did that for a bunch of years. And he's currently overseeing the Olympic Council of Asia's television contract, in addition to a few other things. Norm and Kathy, I think, are still. My understanding is, I think they're still in Hollywood, doing Hollywood kind of things.
Okay.
And then, of course, Isaac is down in Florida enjoying his boat.
Yeah, man. His kids and he's been through a lot, though. The family's been through a lot.
Unfortunately. So, but he's still my favorite guy in the whole world. Just an amazing and very patient director, considering how untalented I was and many of us were. He
Whatever, man.
He really
He's
helped
an
us.
intense director.
I was the stupid ninja on the first. My other favorite moment for Isaac was when we were all in the cage and we were doing something wrong, and he was like, "Let me in. If I had a machine gun, I would kill you all. Let me in the cage."
Wow.
I'm like, don't open the cage, man. Don't open the cage. Don't open the cage. But it was unbelievable. I was down your way, Eric. I went to Chris Casamassa had something down that way, and so I saw Hakeem and Chris, and I hadn't seen Hakeem in a long time, but he's living large as he always does.
Yeah,
of course.
Every time I go to DC, he wants me to go to his club, but he's like, "Oh, I'll pick you up like at 12." I'm like, I don't know. I'm not like 20 anymore. I'm like, we're gonna start at 12:30.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed.
No.
I just want to say, hearing these stories are awesome.
Yes, it is. Raw and unedited, man. Loving it.
Clearly.
Well,
listen, I just pulled my dinner out of the oven. I just wanted to come in and say hi and say hi to Herb and Eric as well. And you guys have a great show. Thanks for inviting me on to say hello.
Definitely. Likewise, man.
Thanks, Christine. Always a pleasure.
Christine she was always exiting early. She always exited early. Good. Enjoy your dinner. It's good to talk to you.
Awesome.
Definitely. Herb, I'll holler at you, man.
Please. Good to talk to you, Eric. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Definitely, guys. Guys, thanks for having us out.
Thanks for coming out.
See ya.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Well, Eric, again, amazing athletes, and it was an honor to work with them for a while. And honestly, Eric taught me. He took me under his wing. He was a very successful TV and movie stunt person, and taught me an amazing amount about how to perform on stage and how to present kicks. And one of my favorite episodes was one that he and I did together about life skill development. And so we actually put it up and use it to teach our other kids.
That's what's up. Well, since you brought up life skills and life in general, let's start there. Tell us about life for you growing up in the mean streets of New York.
Well, it's I was speaking with somebody else about this, and when I grew up, I was a young Puerto Rican kid in a non-Puerto Rican neighborhood because my dad had moved us to a better part of the city. And so even though it was kind of like the projects, they were garden apartments. And so those were a step up from being in the projects, but they were populated by African Americans and Jewish kids. And I was neither African American and I wasn't Jewish, and I was Puerto Rican. And so pretty much every day I walked out of my house, I'd have some issues. My father was a pretty tough guy, but, there would be my mother actually, when I was very, very young, somebody hit me. I came in the house and cried. My sister went out and hit him. And then she forced me to go outside and fight to defend myself. And then I never fought again till I was, I just didn't like it until I was about 9. And I had read this book about Taekwondo, and the Taekwondo character was so powerful that I wanted to do Taekwondo. So when I had moved to this new neighborhood, these kids started to chase me because I moved to a brownstone, and I came out and these guys looked at me, and I had moved to a Spanish neighborhood, and I had never lived in one before. And I dressed differently. I looked differently. So these kids chased me around the city. When I got back home, I had run past the Taekwondo school. So I wandered into the Taekwondo school. And that same moment, the instructor looked at me and said, "Your hair is too long. You're too short. You're not flexible. You'll never be any good." So I said, "Thank you, sir. Where do I sign up?" And he's like, "Well, your mom has to sign you up." So I said, "Well, she's downstairs." So he gave me the application. I took it, put it on the wall, signed myself up, and took some money from my paper out and signed up, and that was the start of my martial arts career.
Yeah, that Taekwondo is the best. I don't care. Don't argue with me. It is. But we're gonna fast forward, and it's the '80s, and you're competing now. And we've heard from Christine, we've heard from Eric, we've heard from Hakeem and Sonny Ono that the competition circuit back then was a lot rougher. So what was it like for you as a competitor?
So, there were two types, there were at least two or three different types of competition circuits. So I competed in both the taekwondo circuit, which was full contact to the body, and pretty much full contact to the face. And then there was the karate circuit, which was kind of minimal contact, but it was still hard contact to the body, and there was punching to the face. And then there was the Olympic circuit, which was full contact body and face. It was brutal. I mean, it was you had to be either really tough, you had to be really physically conditioned, and you had to, depending where you grew up and where you fought. And I fought in New York City. You had to be ready to fight in and out of the arena. And I had been in many fights in my matches, many fights where I had to turn around and make sure nobody was going to hit me while I was in the match, and then many fights in the parking lot before or after the matches. So it just was a different time. It was a rougher time. There were tougher athletes, and it was a step up from the gangs that originally came from Korea and Japan and started Taekwondo here, and karate for that matter.
Okay, you win. I believe it was the bronze in '87, and a couple years later, you're in the Olympics. How did that happen between '87 and getting ready for the Olympics?
So, when I was here, I had gone to find the best that I could find in the United States to train with. So I went to Montana, and the best players in the country at that time were coming from Montana, but they were winning bronze medals at the Worlds. So I had decided that I wanted to win gold. So I went to Korea. I moved to Korea to train every year for 3 months. So I came back in '86 and won the Pan Am championships. Then a year later, won the Pan Am gold, the World Cup. I was the first American to win the world championship. And then I finally made it to the Olympics in '92 and was fortunate enough to have fought pretty much everybody I was going to face at the Olympics, except this Spanish guy who was the world champion from the year before. And I faced him in the final match at the Olympics in front of the King and Queen of Spain. But I had some amazing advice from people on how to handle it psychologically. I had been number 1, 2, or 3 in the world for a period of 8 years, and had fought, in pretty much everywhere in the world. So I came into it with a sense of calm confidence, if though at least a little bit of nervousness.
All right, and that's awesome in front of the King and Queen of Spain, man.
It was interesting. If you ever watch the match, it's kind of fun because they had expected him. They anticipated a gold medal from him. If he had won a gold medal, he would have received $1 million from the country of Spain. And they had his face on T-shirts, and they were chanting, and the floor of the stadium was moving because they were stomping the floor so hard. It was a concrete floor. And my friend was like, "Well, pretend like they're cheering for you." And I said, "Well, they're not." I said, "But they're going to be quiet soon." So it was a good match. He was a great competitor, but I had a good day, and on any given day, matches can either be fantastic or okay, and I had a decent match.
Now, back being hurt, because I was curious about this too as well, because with you having that time frame of getting your bronze and then getting the gold medal in '92, was that always part of the plan for you to be to that point where you got the gold medal? Like, was it something you just said, okay, I'm good at this, I'm going to pursue it, or how'd that come about?
So, I think that life is an interesting journey, and you have to pick your place. So I had made a promise to my parents that I would continue my education. So my mom had passed away a year before the Olympics, but I was the first person in my family to graduate high school, college, went on to law school, graduated law school and graduate school and postgraduate school. And I had a dedication to education first. I was a musician before that, and probably a better musician than a taekwondo player. And I was playing in the New Jersey area clubs and making a bunch of money. And I had to choose whether I was going to finish school at that point, go on to law school, finish taekwondo, try to go to the Olympics, or finish music. And a bunch of my friends had gone on to really big bands. And I realized that music was very chancy. It depended on whether people liked you or didn't like you. And I realized that school would be there when I finished the Olympics. So I made a choice to continue, and I kept going. I kept waiting for the step that I would not attain. So I kept trying, and then if I failed, I would achieve the step. And then if I failed, I'd achieve the step. And if I failed, and I thought the Olympics, quite honestly, would be the thing that I would not achieve. And I would have to live with that. But fortunately, it didn't work out that way.
Yeah. As we see, you moved on to the Olympics and won gold. So, what was the journey like for that?
So it's interesting because now when you coach athletes, it's important to understand that you have to pretty much put your entire life on hold. So I've watched, some of the most recent documentaries about Michael Phelps or Michael Jordan and guys like this. And really, it's kind of honest. At the moment where you make a decision to become the best at what you do, or attempt to become the best at what you do, you have to make a choice that that's going to be your primary focus. So I decided that I would spend 6 to 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. I was traveling 6 to 8 months out of the year training and competing. And virtually every dollar I made was being used to support myself so that I could achieve my dream. And you really do have to sacrifice. So these days, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to ask young athletes to make that sacrifice. Where I live now, it would be difficult. These kids are, they're smart, they're wealthy, to tell them, listen, why don't you pursue this thing and try, and only one of you may win. And if one of you win, one of you may go to the Olympics. And out of all of the one of yous that go to the Olympics, maybe one of you will win. And you have to give up, 10 to 15 years of your life. It's difficult to say that to a young person, especially when they have opportunity. That's why some of our best athletes come from countries where they don't have opportunity. In fact, this may be the only thing that will give them an opportunity. And certainly where I came from, that was the case.
Very true. Okay, you won gold, and so I just have to know, for me, what was the feeling the night you won the gold medal?
Well,
what was the aftermath?
So you win a lot of stuff, and over the years I've won, national championships, Pan Am championships, world championships, and there was always different than what I thought. When I won the World Cup and I told my instructor, he was just kind of so-so about it. And I came home and it was really just another thing. The Olympics was the first thing that I won that was life-altering at the moment. When it happened, immediately I thought about all the sacrifice. I thought about my mother. I thought about my friends. I thought about my teammates. I was the only American to win that year. And it was a profound moment. I then at that moment thought about, what would I do with it? What was this power? What was this opportunity of power I was given, and how could I use it to transform maybe others? And so I was scheduled to go to law school, which I did. I coached the U.S. team that year. And then I thought about, what would I do to give back to the art that had given me so much? And so over the years, I've done different things with that opportunity. But the moment, for a period of 2 years, I couldn't watch the award ceremony or anything from the Olympics on TV without crying. I would just immediately, get teary-eyed and cry, because it was the first time in my life that I had won something that had affected me in that profound way. Winning a gold medal at the Olympics, when you go to the Olympics, most people will just say, oh, you went to the Olympics? They won't even ask you what you won. Wow. But let alone when you win a gold medal, they'll go, how did you do? And I'll go, I won, and there's such a look on their face of admiration or curiosity or something along those lines, where they just want to know what that was like. And I've got to be honest, it was like nothing else I've done in my life. with the exception of your children. When your children are born, that certainly is going to eclipse that.
So along with that, I have to ask you this too, because we're talking about like the competitions and of course with, Taekwondo and then the influence there as a winning the gold medal. I was reading somewhere that you had you know, a way of implementing the current like multi-tier scoring system. So how'd that come
Right.
about? Like, was there an issue with it prior to you doing that, or what was the
So,
difference between like before and after? I guess that
so
happened.
the Koreans were notorious for changing the rules prior to an event 6 months and then training their athletes to those rules. So it would show up at a world championships, the rules would be different. Not that like they needed it. They were amazing athletes, and Korea has some of the best Taekwondo athletes ever. I admire them and respect a lot of them. But the Korean leadership was so corrupt. It was ridiculous. And so when you beat Korea, I had the opportunity to beat Korea 2 times that I faced them. I mean, it just drove them insane to have anyone beat them at that point in time. So I was able to, after I left the sport as an athlete, move into coaching and then administration. I was on the Olympic Committee Board of Directors, the Executive Committee, and then the Olympic Council of Asia. As the head of the U.S. team, there was a controversy in 2008 where they had once again manufactured and cheated in the rules. And so I had a very long conversation with them, and as part of trying to help them, I became the chairman of the education committee and vice chairman of the technical committee. I then created, the problem was that culturally they couldn't understand reward, they understood punishment. So instead of creating opportunities for scoring and then rewarding scoring, they were creating multi-tiered punishments. So they thought the solution was if a guy pushed, you gave him a warning. If a guy did something you didn't want to see, you gave him a warning. Well, I said, well, if you kick somebody in the body, that's easier than kicking somebody in the face. If you jump and kick somebody in the face, that's way easier than just kicking somebody in the face. If you turn and jump and kick somebody in the face. So in basketball, if you want to see more long distance shooting and not just layups, you give 3 points as opposed to 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yep.
you don't want guys acting like they're fouled, you give them 1 point for a foul shot. So you reward excellence. They do that in gymnastics. They do it in taekwondo now. They do it in other sports. So the more difficult the technique, the higher the point. In addition to that, we took they've kind of messed it up since, but we had instituted that rule change, myself and Dr. Steve Capeman, my teammate, and it was fought. We actually got it passed. And then the chairman of the technical committee went on the floor of the General Assembly and wouldn't do it. So we walked out of the meeting and forced him to change it back because we had voted on it. So now the current multi-tiered system, we had gone one step better. We took the athlete, a world championship athlete, and put them in the review chair for bad referee decisions. So just like in football, if they do video replay, instead of a ref viewing it, it was actually an athlete who would review it. And we overturned 80% of the calls. But it drove the referees crazy because they didn't want their ability to do their job to be questioned.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So it's just like it makes a lot of sense because there are some corrupt referees as we've seen in the NBA.
Right.
So it would only make sense because once you can't cheat, and I hate it that they do this at Pee Wee football. You can't cheat people, and especially in situations where it means so much to have at least be there, and then try to establish yourself as a martial artist, as a football player or whatever. You hate to be cheated, so that makes a lot of sense.
Well, I think you have to put it in perspective, and I'll put it in 3 different levels. Number one, the game now is so sophisticated and the athlete is so quick and so talented that it's difficult for a regular human being to be able to score the game correctly. So for a regular referee to be able to pick this button over this button to use electronic scoring is challenging. And these guys are 60, 70 years old. Second, most of them are inept. They quite frankly never did the sport at a high level. They don't understand the game or the strategy. So they can't physically score it. They can't intellectually score it. And to be able to score it correctly, you have to be able to anticipate what the person's going to do and what the answer is so that you score the right technique. So you would see a lot of missed scores. And then quite honestly, you had the perception issue. And the only way I can put it in perspective for you is there's a funny movie a lot of years ago, White Men Can't Jump, right? And it was Woody Harrelson and I think Wesley Snipes. And Woody Harrelson, nobody expected him to jump. You wouldn't watch him expecting him to be, and he could jump and dunk and he could actually play the game. Well, there are a lot of people that watch my sport and didn't think non-Koreans could do it. In fact, they were just waiting for the Korean to do it. So they weren't seeing, kind of like when I watched Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson. I was watching the fight waiting for Tyson to knock him out. It never occurred to me that Buster Douglas could knock him out. And when he did, I was cooking and I literally flipped my food in the air and it hit the ceiling because I was in such shock. But now go back and watch that fight now with the lens of now, and you saw Tyson was losing the fight for a long time. And just because our perception at the point was Tyson can't lose, let's wait till Tyson knocks him out. So some of it was purposeful, and I had situations where I caught them literally. People told me what they did, and I held them accountable after. I was told of the people who had cheated and told how they did it and told why they did it by the referees that cheated themselves. And so that was hard. But then I just saw bad refereeing in general, just people that, if you go to these South American countries, they were taught by Koreans. They revere these guys like they're superhuman. So when they go to a tournament and they see a Korean fighting, they're in awe. All they're waiting for is to see them do something. So they can't really judge they're incapable of judging the match fairly. And now with the new scoring system, it kind of doesn't even matter.
Okay, so for those watching, and for me and Smooth, the biggest question of all, WMAC Masters. How did you get into it, and what was the experience like for you personally?
So two things happened. First thing that happened was at the Olympics, after I won, I was approached by 2 or 3 different types of people. So I was approached by an agent, and the agent tried to get me a modeling contract first with Ford Models. But I guess I had an okay face, and I was in pretty good shape, and I looked okay. But you have to, as a man back then, you had to be 6 foot plus, and I was 5'9" on a good day. So I walked into Ford Modeling Agency, and they were like, too short, thank you. So they wanted me to do sports modeling, and I didn't have any interest in that. The second thing that happened was I was asked to fight in the first UFC tournament. And they told me the names of the people, and I was like, I hadn't heard of any of them except the Gracies. And then I asked them how much money, and they told me how much money. And I said, well, how much if I win? They said, no, that's if you win. And I said, well, I don't really have any interest. I'm in law school, so I'm just going to do this. I actually commentated the second UFC tournament. The third thing that happened was I was approached by the group that he was talking about, Norm Grossfeld and this 4 Kids production, because they wanted to bring the show some legitimacy. So they had gotten some really amazing NASCAR athletes, Hakeem Alston, Ho-Sung Park, his brother, Christine, Eric Betts, Hien Nguyen, and they got some of the best Hollywood Kung Fu guys from Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles, Larry Lamb, Richard Brandon. They got a bunch of the great fighters from NASCAR, and they really didn't have anybody from my world. So I guess they went after what back then would have been one of the better ones they could have found, which was me, because I had the only Olympic gold medal at that point. And they asked me to be in the show. And I said, no. I said, I'm in law school. I have no interest. And they're like, please, they talked to me for 4 hours. And after 4 hours, I'm like, well, I'm in law school. I'm in my first year. I got to finish law school. Then they mentioned that I would be an action figure. I was going to get a doll. And so I was like, a doll? Okay, I'm in. So I was
cool.
Like, the doll. But, the truth of it is we were blessed. And every day I think about the fortune that I've had, the good fortune, because that show was an amazing opportunity to share martial arts with a generation of children in a good way. It was a good life skill message. It wasn't silly. There was some great martial artists in it. There was some really great martial arts in it that were choreographed. It was a talented director, a very talented crew. It was a big budget show. And so every day we got to wake up and go in Universal Studios and be big kids and act like movie stars when we had no right. We had cars, we were taken care of. We didn't make as much money probably as we should have, and the show should have lasted longer than it did. But guys like Eric Betts and he and Gwen and Christina and all of us, we just built lifelong relationships. We had amazing times where we kind of teased each other a little bit. Eric, myself, Eric, Hakeem, Ho Sung, and he and there were 6 of us that were the first round of action figures, and everybody wanted to be an action figure. So who got to be the second round was a big deal. Chris Casamassa was one of the first round ones. So we gave everybody else kind of a hard time and teased them about that. And we had a lot of great fun. But what a lot of people don't know is that show was shot at 7 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock in the morning. So we were like exhausted. We were on reverse time schedules, and we were sleeping during the day and trying to work at night. And it was a great opportunity. And some of them took it on to do other things. There are a lot of alumni of that show that have done amazing stuff. And the show has opened the door for a lot of them to do a lot more with their lives in different ways.
Yeah.
Now, you had mentioned law school. Oh, sorry, my bad.
Oh, go ahead.
You had mentioned law school, because I was curious, man, just being like a college graduate myself. Like, what were your plans with that when you wanted to go? Like, what were you trying to do with that, basically?
So what happens is, when I was a young kid, I was in a poor family, and when I was a young kid, I'm from New York, and the police in New York were horrible. I mean, there were probably some nice ones, I guess, but in the places that I lived, the police were not great. They weren't a place where you went for help, and they were kind of quasi-abusive, especially to young kids, young minorities. So I saw law school as an opportunity for me to deal with the inequities of society in a large part. And I don't like to get on my bandwagon, but that's kind of the reason. I did my undergraduate in philosophy, and as a philosophy major, it was a question of whether I was going to use it for law school or become a professor. And I decided that law school would be a great avenue. My father had been shot and killed in New York in a robbery attempt back when I was younger. And so I thought it was an interesting thing that I wanted to do. I was accepted to Rutgers Law School, and I was just overwhelmed. It was the other time in my life that I was, I cried. I mean, I got accepted right before I went to the Olympics, and I knew that I had this amazing opportunity in front of me. And Rutgers Law School is actually where Ruth, RGB, Ruth Ginsburg, Bader Ginsburg went and taught. So she was one of the, not when I was there, but it had a great legacy as a constitutional law program. Wow. So the unfortunate part, though, is when I got to law school, I had this idea that it would be like the paper chase, and it would be about the right and the wrong and justice. And it really turned out to be more about a technical school. And those that understood the rules better could use them better. Those with more money could use them better, and if you could exhaust people's finances. So pretty much my first day of law school, I decided I wasn't going to be a lawyer, but I would use my legal education in other arenas to help people. And so I've had a great career of other things that I've done as a result of law school.
Well, I'm definitely glad to hear that, Herb. Oh,
it's just
good.
Yeah, just good, just great. I mean, I encourage everyone, I encourage anyone. The unfortunate truth is that we don't pay teachers enough. We don't pay professionals that help our children become better people. And we don't pay people that do the type of law that we need enough money to be able to survive. And just take a look at today, and types of decisions you see. And it would really be better if we could pay the people that protected people and took care of people's just fundamental rights better. These are interesting and challenging times, and necessary, I guess, in a large part. But the law could do so much more if it were used appropriately.
And you know what? You hit the nail on the head there, Herb, because that's all I was really going to say after that was just like how I appreciate that you were willing to share that part of your story. And to know that you were actually, going to school for that just hits home. And it's just nice to hear that and to be able to know that, there's people out there who are really looking forward to do some kind of change. Yeah. And it's just good to hear that happen, man. So, big ups to you, and thank you so much for sharing that part of your story, really. Seriously.
Well, I wish I could have done more with it. I think, there was, and I was speaking with my wife about that the other day. I was fortunate that I took it to do some amazing stuff with the Olympic movement. I took it and did some local politics and governance, locally, using my education.
Go out.
Here we go.
Oh, there you go. You're back? All right, good.
Yes, sir.
Right. It's a great opportunity. It was a great opportunity to serve some local issues and fix some local problems. And I think that, what I tell my children and the children I teach is get as much education as you can, because then you can't be marginalized. And in philosophy, you learn you should have an artistic self. Music was that. You should have a physical self. Taekwondo was that. You should have an educational or intellectual self. Philosophy and the law have provided me with that. I think one of the things that I think about these days is what's the next legacy? What do we leave? What is the thing that we need to do, and what part should I play in that? So I lament that I didn't spend as much time as I could have on my path. But I had a real other issue, which was I had no interest in being poor. I had worked very hard not to live the kind of life that I had to live growing up. And so I wanted to make sure that I could take care of myself, take care of my family, and take care of some people around us.
So what was, because I remember you sent me your bio, and you were mayor of and vice mayor of Forest City.
Correct.
What made you get into being, or running for mayor rather?
So I have a problem, and my problem is, most things I join as a member, and then I become part of the leadership. So when I was a musician, I started as a member, then I became the leader. Everything is U.S. team, I became the captain. Organization, I became the leader. All the organizations I joined. And in part, it's because I get frustrated by watching people not get stuff accomplished. So when I came to Foster City, it was a great city, amazing city. And the mayor, who was retiring, asked me to run for the council. I was on a trip in Korea. And so when I came home, I talked to him. And it was interesting to watch, because it was the same problem that I saw in a lot of places in America. And it was, I wasn't them. I wasn't like them. I wasn't from here. I was too young. I wasn't like them. So they fought me, this group, the status quo. I then decided I was going to win, and I ran a very sophisticated campaign to win twice. And a small group of them that were on the council that were older and of a particular ilk tried to prevent me from becoming mayor. And I became mayor and vice mayor because it was important to do as a statement to lead the organization. While mayor, I made amazing changes to the way the city did business. The city started when I got on the council with $9 million in the bank, only 9. When I left the council, it had $92 million in the bank. So we grew the city by a ridiculous amount of money. We stopped smoking in the city. We financed a levee project, and we just got an amazing amount done. But that's not to say it was without battles. And one of the things you have to understand about politics is, and you can see it in current politics, you meet a lot of dumb people. You meet a lot of people that are really you know, they are really horrible and nasty. And so I was offered to do some other higher level politics. And I said, no, I'm going to focus on my family. So I'm back to regular life, which is amazing. And the timing was amazing because with the COVID virus and all the things we're going through, it's a good time to kind of refocus your efforts on what you need to do.
Absolutely. And that is something that, we all need to realize. And it's just this time where I get it, where you don't want to necessarily be stuck at home. You don't want to have to, I guess, be in a position where you can't do some of the things that you couldn't do previously and things like that. But at the end of the day, we got to do what we have to do to make those adjustments, right? And you got to take that time out to really rethink your approach as to what you're doing in life. I mean, to actually be sat down like this, like literally sat down, and to
Right.
be rethinking, like, okay, is there something I'm going to do differently going forward that I didn't pursue previously? Is my family going to be put in the right position that they, should be put into? Like, did I do all of that right? Is there something I wanted to start up that I did start up? And I gotta say, like for us, doing the show and everything, it's something that we had, come together with prior to all this happening. And I'm really thankful that it did happen even during this time. It's just, a lot easier to focus on it. And it's just cool, man, to be able to have these different opportunities, speak to someone like yourself, and then also to hear, like, just, your philosophy and also what you are trying to accomplish on your end, and to hear that you're heavily involved with your family as well, too. And that's just something that's really, really inspiring for people like myself, for Mel, and others that are watching, So I just want to point that out, too.
Well, those are kind words. I think that, what I haven't really spoken much on, I do a lot of educational videos. I do a lot of life skill videos for my school and my kids and my organization. What I haven't done yet is speak publicly about what's going on two fronts. But the one that we're speaking about, which is the COVID virus and the corona thing, I haven't spoken on, and the reason is it's not quite time to speak on it yet, because what needs to be said is it's been a great equalizer, except for its impact in a disparate sense on the minority community. It's been a great equalizer of people and the impact of it in a different way. But the thing that you really have to ask yourself, it's forced people to really think about what matters and what kind of car you drive, what kind of guitar you have, what time you spend with your children, what you watch on TV. The fact that you can't go out to a restaurant and eat is not the most important thing in the world. The fact that you can't go out and play basketball is not the most important thing in the world. The most important thing in the world is the time that you get to spend with yourself and your family, and those interactions that you have and those conversations you have. And what I started to say to somebody is, on any given day, you're going to wake up slightly enthusiastic and optimistic, and on other days you're going to wake up depressed and just horribly depressed where you don't want to get out of bed. And the question you have to ask yourself is, when you take a bite of something that you like to eat, if you like strawberries or whatever, when you bite that strawberry, is it brighter and better, or is it worse? And I'm going to tell you that I think it's better. I think that when you take those moments to enjoy the small pleasures of life, whether it's food or time with your family, or you'll never get this time to spend that much time with your children, then that's going to be the takeaway from this. And you will shed all the nonsense. I have a lot of guitars. I have convinced my wife I only need, she said, how many do you need? I said, only one more. But in reality, I kind of only need one, right? And the things that matter are those moments with people, and those are the things that you'll miss. So I think, I haven't really put this together yet in my mind. And when I do, I will, and when it needs to be said. But there are so many people talking about this now, and there are so many people not believing it's happening. And then there are so many people that aren't seeing the impacts of it. And, I'm not of those people. I can't understand them. But there is no doubt, and it's an unfortunate reality, that this is the next year or two, and it's not tomorrow, and it's not going away tomorrow. So you have to the good thing about being an Olympic athlete and having done that journey is you're never a stranger to the road or the challenge or sacrifice. So you totally understand how to sacrifice. You totally understand how you're not going anywhere. You totally understand how you don't have any money. You totally understand that if you just keep your head down and keep moving forward, it will end soon. And that's the only advice I can give to people with this. Just keep your head down, keep moving forward in a positive direction. And at some point it will end. When? I don't know. But it will end. And I think that's the most important learning lesson from this.
Very true.
Exactly. You hit that right on the head. Um, okay, I'm turning into a little kid right now, so please don't judge me. What's the trophy case looking like?
The WMAC one or my personal one?
You know what? I didn't realize anybody had a WMAC trophy case, but since you brought that up, we'll add that one to it.
So there's a handful of us who won the WMAC Masters Dragon Star, and so I had won it. So I have a copy of it somewhere put away. So I have one of those, which is sought after. I still have my WMAC outfit somewhere and some nonsense from the show, and I still have all of the action figures
Nice.
from my colleagues and I. Me, what I would do when they first came out, I would go to Toys R Us and buy all my action figures, just mine, because I was trying to create a run on them as if they were the most popular. And so everywhere I traveled, I'd go into the store and walk out with 20 Herb Perez action figures. My personal, and the people would laugh, and the woman would ask me for ID when I gave her a check. And I'd hold up my doll, and she'd go, "It doesn't look like you, so I need your driver's license." So with my personal, I fought at a bunch of the NASCA type events and karate events. So over the years from competing, I probably have 400 or 500 awards. I have a number of grand championships that I really was proud to have, including the All-American Henry Cho's in Madison Square Garden. And I have a bunch of we had an amazing school with amazing athletes who had won, just an amazing amount of events. So I used to give all my gold medals to my instructor. He wouldn't take my Olympic gold medal, so I still have that one. But anything that I would have one of note, I would bring back to my instructors and offer to give to them because they were the ones who created it.
Nice.
As we all do that.
I just saw a note on my notice that there was a gentleman that taught me that I should mention. His name was Anthony Alvarez, and he was one of my first instructors, one of my hardest ever instructors. He came from Ki Chung Kim's Taekwondo school and taught me pretty much virtually everything I needed to know back then about fighting. And I learned my Olympic style of fighting from Sifu Paul Vizio, who was an amazing kickboxer, and just taught me an amazing amount about how to fight in a full contact match and the kind of person you needed to be. But I just wanted to mention that because I just noticed that Anthony Alvarez had posted something on Facebook, probably unrelated, but I wanted to say something.
Either way, it's good to mention martial artists that don't get mentioned very often because those are the guys that helped you and guys like you and Hakeem and Christine to get to where you guys are.
Yeah.
You said you had a school. What's the school like during the day, like day-to-day operations?
So, we have 4 locations, and I started out with, over the years, I've been teaching for a long time, even back when I was on the East Coast. When I came here, I decided to spend more time at home and not travel. So we opened the first gold medal in Foster City, and it had over 800 members. So we had an amazing amount of students that were from amazing families, and a bunch of them went on to become national champions. And then most of them just became better at life. So on a day-to-day basis, we teach children as young as 3 and 4. We teach young adults, and we teach men and women fitness. And it's been one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life to share my passion for martial arts. I never really wanted to teach because I really didn't think I was good enough to teach. I was taught by people who were way better than me. And so I didn't feel like I knew enough, and I really didn't want to do anything. But then I realized that I had something to share, and I realized that I had a method of success and goal achievement to share. So that's kind of what I focus on. And I have some great young coaches also working with me to help me run all the different locations.
That is awesome, because I was wondering, like, uh, you, Christine, you guys have schools, and we know you guys get busy. So I was wondering, like, what is it like during the day for you guys? Because
well, I think it's hard for all of us. You got to work during, like a lot of guys are doing a lot of other things, and I'm sure Christine, she runs a very large school along with her husband, and so you're trying to manage your personal life, then your business life, and then whatever else you're doing in the nonprofit world. So I know she's quite busy doing a lot as well.
And it was cool to hear, because when I was reading up on this and just seeing, what you're doing with regards to gold medal martial arts, I was very happy to see like how much influence is put on the children. Because on the website itself, because I checked it out today, and I was like, oh wow, it's pretty detailed, like as far as what the layout is, and what's going on, the different tiers, and how you have like your children's classes and your adult classes. And so with regards to that, was the intention always to kind of gear more toward training up the youth, because you have more time with them to be able to mold them, I guess, into better people? Or was it like, hey, anyone who wants to come can come? What was the philosophy behind that in terms of the schools?
So when I was growing up, not a lot of kids went to martial arts schools. It was really adults that came in and they wanted to learn how to fight or defend themselves. And then martial arts schools turned into life skill development schools. So we try to do a combination of both. But the reason I focus on children is not every child that walks into a martial arts school will become a world champion, but every child that walks to a martial arts school will become a champion in life. So you will learn skills like I learned to be successful in school, in academics, in music, in art, in anything that you choose to use it for, because it teaches you goal achievement. And nothing is more immediate than the training in Taekwondo. You practice, you get better, or you get worse. You enter an arena, you win or you lose, and that's about 9 minutes of your life. You don't have to wait 4 years like high school to see if you're going to get into a great college. So it's a very real life test of your training and your skill level. So it teaches children how to use their mind and their body, and then to develop those skills so they can be successful in both. So I think that's why I choose to teach, because I could have done a lot of things. I could have been an attorney, a musician, but Taekwondo is the one thing that I do uniquely, teaching wise, that I've influenced more people with. The world doesn't need another lawyer, and the world doesn't need another musician, but it certainly could use some people to teach youth how to be successful.
Absolutely.
It does. But are you still in music? Because I remember the first picture we posted as a part of the advertisement.
Oh.
And you look like an 80s glam band guy. Was that the gimmick for the band, or was that just you?
So I was fortunate. What happened was I liked music. When I was very young, it was my first passion. And then I started taking lessons when I was about 5 from a nun who used to hit me with a ruler. And then when I was 9, I went back by myself the same time I did Taekwondo. And unfortunately, I walked into the school of a guy who's now a professional jazz guitarist, and I had no idea. He inspired me in such a way, which he doesn't realize, that I went on to continue to play. So in this small town where I met Anthony Alvarez, my Taekwondo instructor at that point, and Julio Sanchez, my music teacher, who probably doesn't remember me at that point, I then took, and I loved it. I ended up playing professionally in bands when I was young, and when I was 15, I was playing in nightclubs dressed kind of like you saw me, and I had to make a choice. I was playing in a band that opened for actually a couple of pretty famous bands, Twisted Sister. We opened for them at the Fountain Casino in front of like thousands and thousands of people, and we were working with them a bunch of nights. And White Tiger, who's recently, I've seen a bunch of their stuff on Facebook. and we admired those guys. So back then, if you were a rock musician, that was the look. So I had hair down to my shoulders, no shirt. I had spandex on, and Capezio, white Capezios, and we even had makeup. But the good news was when you're dressed like that, you get to practice taekwondo a lot, because a lot of people see you dressed up like that, and they want to deal with you, especially where I grew up. So I would be going to a gig and I'd be dressed, and you get these guys who had an issue with it, and I would warn them gently it would probably not end well, and they didn't always listen. So I had my share of real life taekwondo educational moments in many parking lots, helping the young men of America understand that just because I was dressed in spandex didn't mean I couldn't fight.
Life lessons, man.
Exactly.
Well, I hadn't learned avoidance yet. I hadn't learned avoidance. I now have a different manner. But back then, I didn't want to get hurt. And actually, most times it was me defending the other guys in the band, because we had a drummer who was extremely good looking. He looked like David Lee Roth. And he also had a big mouth. So you would always get into arguments with people.
Man.
And so they would come after him. And then I'd look at them and I go, man, I'm not going to let you hit him. You got to get through me. And they'd look at me, and he'd yell, yeah, you got to get through him. Next thing I knew, I was dealing with some big guy. But it's okay. It was a life lesson. I've since learned how to not have to use my physical ability. I use my wit and my repartee to assuage people of their apparent need to harm me.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I figured I'd ask that because, as we were growing up, watching you on the show and then hearing about you in the Olympics and doing all the reading up on you in black belt magazines and Kung Fu and all of that, I never would have guessed that you were a musician.
Oh.
Nope.
There was one article. There was one reporter who had one article who took a bunch of those pictures after the Olympics, and I think at that same thing, they had pictures of me with George Steinbrenner, President Bush, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then they had pictures of me dressed like I would be dressed when I was in the band. But I look at life as a journey and education. So I had this opportunity to live this amazing baby rock star life, and then I went on to have this amazing Olympic journey, and then I went on to have an amazing baby TV martial arts action star journey, and then a mini politician. So I'm not sure what my next incarnation is. I'm still playing a ton of music for myself. I perform with my friends once in a while, and if you look around my house, you'll see there's drums and guitars and all sorts of stuff. I'm teaching my children to play because I think music is amazing. Music is to art what fighting is to martial arts. So when you do forms, that's like classical music. When you do jazz, it's like fighting. You got to make it up as you go. And so I'm trying to get my jazz up together.
Now, I wanted to ask you this too, because it was something I recently was looking at in a Black Belt magazine. So could you explain to me what fight back is?
One more time?
Fight back.
Fight back?
Mm-hmm. It was something on there. It was called a fight back. It said, basically on this article, it was saying that you had joined Fight Back to help Black Belt support the first responders and medical staff on the front lines against COVID-19.
I had no idea. I have no idea. I haven't heard of it yet, but if offered that opportunity, of course I would. I hadn't heard of it. Nobody has spoken to me of it, so I must apologize.
No, you're fine. I'm going to actually drop you the link to that.
Yeah,
so you can
I'd
check
love
it
to.
out.
Anything that I could do to help people in any form of fashion, I would love to help. So it's been it's been a devastating time for a lot of people. The sad part is that most martial arts schools, 50% of them will probably close, maybe 70. So, to survive this time is going to be tough and challenging for a lot of people.
That's heartbreaking. Like we
well
originally we weren't covering combat sports before a few months back, and we kept getting requests. People kept asking us, what do we think about the stage of the UFC and everything like that.
Oh,
so this is how we got our start into finding guys like you and Hakeem and Christine.
Hakeem's a good, amazing martial artist and a great person, very dedicated to doing a lot of good things. I mean, Century Martial Arts, by way of example, they took one of their production lines and they changed it over to make equipment for first responders. So they were one of the first companies to change their sewing line. And instead of making for-profit stuff for their business, they said, we're going to make stuff so people can have PPE. So when I read that and they did it very quietly. So I called up Mike Diller Jr. and I was like, that's just amazing when a company of that size decides to try to help people.
Yeah, it is. Have you competed in anything lately? Forms, just local stuff, or you just stay retired?
I had decided when I retired after the Olympics, my instructor had suggested I retire, that I would stay retired. What I did consider doing, I was going to fight in the World Masters tournament in Turin, Italy. And then my Olympic friend called me up and told me I was crazy. He said, why would you go compete in that? It's not, it's not fair. It was a bunch of other national and international champions who were going to compete in it, but there were they had two divisions, one for Olympians and then one for, people that just wanted to compete in the masters level. What I did do is I cycle a lot. So I try to enter challenging bike races. So I entered a 100-mile century race. So that's my new passion. And then I challenged my son a little bit of flag football because he's way faster than me.
Flag gives you an advantage. It gives you something to reach out for.
There you go. So I mean, I like one of the things that I'm thinking about these days is soccer, because I like the sport and I've been watching it a lot. So I've been looking into creating a indoor soccer facility so that these kids will have better opportunities domestically in this area. But now with COVID, it's a challenging thing. But soccer is quite. I didn't understand what a great sport it was until I watched the kids play it.
Yeah, I understood it at an early age that it was a great sport. It's just not a great sport for me.
There you go. I didn't like it. I tried it when I was young. And I was like, this is way too much running, man. Like, I have no interest in running up and down the field chasing a ball. Yeah. And I didn't like the fact
it wasn't that I had a problem with it.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I had a problem with it running. It was the problem that, it was like running track to me. Like you go some of the races, you keep running. You think the race is over, and then you hear your coach telling you to keep running.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember scoring a goal, and I was like, "Yeah!" Like, but the game's not over. Keep running. Wait, what?
Yeah,
we just scored. Yeah, but the game's not over. You still got 75 more minutes.
I couldn't watch. I couldn't watch it because it was too long and it wasn't enough scoring for me. I was watching it like 1-0 or 0-0. I'm like, I can't watch this. I need more action. My wife's a huge football fan, so I was watching some football with her because she likes football. So I've taken a liking to watching football, at least with her.
It's cool you mentioned that because I know for me, it is, man, and it's funny because like when Mel was talking about how you score a goal, you're like, all right, you gotta keep running. That's not it. That's not the end of the game.
Yeah,
it's just crazy because with football, you figure you score, you're like, okay, that was the ultimate goal for that side of the ball. So the fact that I got that done, if I'm not on extra point or nothing like that, I'm off the field. I get to go sit down for a second till the defense
Take a rest. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And take a rest. You know, soccer was like, all right, I just sprinted. I got that goal. And you're like, okay, let's try to go back now. Let's, cover the next guy coming up. And it's like, that's a lot of running. And that clock just keeps running and running and running until the half comes up. That's it.
Yeah, soccer's a hard sport. Soccer, great athletes. Yeah,
very unfair.
They're sissies when they get their foot. They're sissies when they get their foot touched. But other than that, they're great actors.
The flop.
There's no better actors in soccer. Step on the original foot. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you step on a guy's foot, he's flying like another 5 yards or something like that. The original flop had to come from that, man. Had
Horrible.
to.
It had.
Horrible.
Of course it did. Of course it did.
Man.
I think LeBron and some of the other NBA players take their flopping from soccer players.
From soccer, right? Man, seriously. But Herb, I gotta say, man, it was a pleasure for me because just to be able to watch a show like WMAC Masters, right, and then to see what you've accomplished, never once in my mind did I think I would even be having a conversation with you. Even as an adult now, I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. Because at that time frame, thinking back, I'm like, it'd be cool to meet those people. It'd be cool to have a conversation or to be able to, interact with them someday. And never once did I think, we would even have a platform like this to do something like that, or to even be having the same type of, vibe or anything that's close to what we're doing right now. So, for me, it was a pleasure. For sure.
I appreciate you caring enough to ask questions and take the opportunity to hear our voices. And for us, I think it's important to remember, we're just people like, and for us in general, all of us, that we're honored that we still mattered in some small way. The kids that I meet that did martial arts because they watched our show, I think that's amazing. Mm-hmm. The kids that started martial arts because they dreamed of being in the Olympics. I started martial arts and music for the same reason. I dreamed about being an astronaut because somebody went to the moon. And there are things that I think that we have that are important to all of us. The fact that you would talk to us now, this many years later, I'm sure there are way more famous people to talk to. So I appreciate you taking the time to even hear a little bit about what we thought and what we all think and feel. And I'm honored that you would take the time to have the opportunity to speak with me.
Likewise.
Well, to be honest with you, I would rather talk to you anyway because the more famous people don't really respond. So forget those guys. So I'd rather learn about the people I actually grew up watching because to me it means more. Having watched you, and I don't want to bring this up, but what made me go as hard as I did in Taekwondo for the time that I did do it was seeing you go over Ho Sung's head in the Dragon Star match, and I was like, Taekwondo. What's funny? What's funny is we grew up playing games like Mortal Kombat, never knew or linked the two together till we got older. That Ho Sung Pak was really Liu Kang in the first two games. So watching you guys on WMAC Masters and seeing you and Ho Sung go at it. You're getting the drop on Ho Sung, and then all of a sudden you go for the dragon kick and ducks. As a Taekwondo kid, it's like, we will never lose the Kung Fu ever again. I couldn't stand it. I hated Ho Sung for 3 months.
Ho Sung's a funny guy. Ho Sung, that was, Ho Sung's a funny guy. He was my roommate for a little period of time. He's an interesting guy, and I think he was a little upset that that's the way he had to win instead of the other way. But Ho Sung,
he was all upset.
Yeah, he was, but he's a nice guy. He was a great forms competitor, and each of those guys had a different personality. It was nice to work with Ho Sung. It was nice to work with Hakeem and Eric and those guys because they each in their own heart had a love for martial arts and wanted to enjoy it, share it, and they were amazing at what they did. They were great athletes.
You were amazing at what you did, which is
lucky.
People,
just lucky.
Call it what you will. We still appreciate it because a lot of kids who watch our show and a lot of grown-ups who watch our show, a lot of our followers, you know, like Ronnie said, we never thought in a million years we'd be talking to you guys. But you guys are nice
True.
enough to respond at least and say, you know, we may be able to work something out. And for us, that's a blessing. And not only is it a blessing, it's also an experience we wouldn't have had a chance to have had we not pursued this the way we did.
Well,
So
you
we like
said it. You said it the right way, and you said it. You have a dream to do certain things, and you did it, and you were persevering, and so you did it, and you were able to accomplish it. And I got to be honest, if you guys keep up with that energy, you'll do anything you want to do. There won't be a person that won't talk to you, and they should talk to you because that's incumbent upon them to share the beauty of the life they've been given by virtue of the things that they've done. So whether it's Michael Phelps or Michael Jordan or whoever the new guys are in football or basketball, or these guys, they should take some time out from their lives to give you and share their journey with you, because that's how the youth of America become inspired. You know, kids have to see people as people. They have to see people that look like them achieving. I wanted to be an astronaut, you know, as I said before. I didn't see anybody that looked like me that was an astronaut. There were no people of color that were astronauts, so I didn't see that as a viable path. I saw people that were musicians that looked like me, and I saw people that were academics, and I saw people that were fighters that looked like me. And so those were viable paths. I think we have to do our best to get people to share those stories so that we can have more people believe they can do stuff, because it starts with hope. And with hope is how people change. Without hope, you know, where I grew up, people grew up, they got shot, they went to jail, and some of them went to college. And that's all about hope. Without hope, you go the other two places. With hope, you try to transcend. So we have
Sound
to
very
keep pushing.
similar.
And you guys are pushing the ball forward. You got to keep pushing that ball forward.
we appreciate that advice.
Absolutely.
No, thank you so much. I'm always here if you guys ever need anything. If there's anything I can do for you, please let me know.
We will do that.
We appreciate that for sure.
You're welcome
Thank you
back.
for having me this evening, sir. Thank you so much. And if you talk to any other guys, let me tell them I said hi.
We will do that.
Absolutely,
All right,
Eric.
sir.
Thank you.
You guys have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
You too. We
You too.
appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, that was the great Herb Perez, who was nice enough to take time out of his Sunday and share life experiences with us, and just all around classy guy.
Man, I gotta say, like, having him and having some of the other, you know, participants from WMC Masters and talking to them and just hearing their life story, man, it's just so inspirational. And to be able to see how down to earth they are, I think
Yeah,
that's the
that's
main thing.
yeah, that's the beauty.
Yeah, because like when you see someone on television, whether it's like, okay, you're growing up watching them, or let's say you check it out like midway through when you're approaching adulthood, or like you finally get over this side, man, you wouldn't think, like, first of all, like I said already, that you even be talking to them. And then on
Right.
top of that, to hear what they've done or what they've accomplished, it's like, okay, that stuff all sounds realistic. It sounds very achievable if you put the work in. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And for those of y'all that are checking us out, really take heed to what they're talking about. Really think about, okay, here's what they set out to do. They did it. Yes, it took some sacrifice, but overall it paid off. And they're still able to do the things they love even now at this stage. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
that's very inspiring to hear. They've all got children, you know, they've all done everything, schools, done stuff on screen. Like they've had, you know, the opportunity to be blessed to do so much. And I want everybody to really think about that
Yeah.
and to have that take of like, okay, maybe I'm not in my best situation right now, but I have an opportunity to change that. And what's it going to take to make that happen? I just wanted to put that out there. Just wanted to put that out there. So
Once you figure it out, don't stop going.
definitely.
All right. Um. So, quick update. Right now, Packers are up on the Saints Sunday Night Football, 13-10. Pretty uneventful, just being honest.
Yeah.
Browns won, Steelers won. I guess 49ers won. All's right in the world, I guess.
Oh
Well,
man.
here's the thing. Here's the thing that shocked me. in the world of football, and we're gonna dedicate this last segment to just the football. But for me, the 49ers
Man.
losing Bosa, losing Garoppolo at least for a couple of games, and they
Mm.
had 30 on the Giants, like a cool 30 on the Giants.
Yeah.
That I'm really nervous about whether or not the Garoppolo factor really even means anything because even with him being injured, it's still a it's still a what's the word I'm looking for? There's still substance there for them, if that makes any sense. Because
True.
here we are, week 3. Tyrod Taylor gets stabbed in his ribs and punctures his lung by the team doctor.
Oh my goodness.
Bosa gets hurt. Gets hurt in New York. Garoppolo gets hurt. All of these injuries, and we already said it. We lost a couple of great people this week. Road Warrior Animal rejoins Road Warrior Hawk, so the Legion of Doom is reunited back in heaven. We lost him on Wednesday. We also lost Gail Sayers, Chicago Bears great, on Wednesday as
Yep.
well. So I'm just I'm happy that the Niners won. I'm also happy that they won without Garoppolo. But I'm thinking about these injuries, and my question to you is: will these injuries to these teams with players that are needed, will these injuries come back to bite these guys?
Looking at some of these injuries that did occur, because you figure with the 49ers, I guess for them, out of all the different teams that we were talking about or that we had mentioned, I feel like for them, they'll have, I won't say it's the easiest, but I feel like they'll be able to adjust a lot quicker than the other teams. Because you figure losing someone like Saquon Barkley for the year, that's my head is like wow, because you don't
That's
have a
heartbreaking.
whole lot of options in New York with the Giants or New Jersey for some people. You don't have that option to be like, okay, cool, who's the next guy up? And the whole Devontae Freeman thing, like I like him as a player, but Saquon is just different. It's dynamic.
Yeah,
It's to lose somebody on that level, especially in the backfield and what you've been doing and how helpful he is at bailing out like Daniel Jones, bro. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what they're gonna do. I really don't. When it comes to the 49ers, though, you figure their run game was so solid. You know what I'm saying? Like Garoppolo, he could throw for 200 a game, and they'll win. You know what I'm saying? Like it
yeah,
wasn't like to a point where they had to use the talent that they do have at wide receiver. It's there if they need it, but at the same time, run game was smooth. You know what I mean? So and Shanahan gonna use that. We already know that, right? Looking at Bosa though from the defensive side, that's where things get a little weird. Okay, because you figure your pass rush, right? You're looking at Bosa on one end, and then you figure on the other end you have Armstead or whatever. So having those two guys on the outside, I was like, okay, this is crazy. Having the two kind of rushing you like that. And then you
yeah,
figure their interior line is different now because they lost their D tackle to the Colts. So the front seven is going to be a little bit different now. You can kind of exploit that. Maybe you double up Armstead a little bit and then kind of do what you want toward the flats and whatever else, however the game plan is for the offense. I can't say it's the same for everybody, obviously. But at the end of the day, it's definitely going to open up some more against that defense, especially on the ground. So it'd be interesting to kind of see how they adjust, not having Bosa. Because with him, you take him out the picture, you have a guy by the name of Kerry Hyder Jr. Okay, that's the one that's next up. And then behind Eric Armstead is D Ford, right? So looking at them on the line, it's like, ooh, we'll kind of see because Armstead can't do it all by himself. You know what I mean? So
he
I feel like on the
can't.
defensive side,
But
it'll be hard. But offense, they get a better
uh,
chance, I feel like, when it comes to the adjustment.
well, he can't do it all. You're right. But what I think could happen, and I think
Hmm.
should happen, is they rotate these linemen a little more. Like,
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
you got Armstead and Bosa Armstead and Bosa were on the corners. Ford, I would put Ford. I would put speed because Ford, if I'm not mistaken, Ford got a little bit of speed.
Yeah, put him
So
in the
I would
middle.
put, yeah, I would interchange these linemen, man, and I would interchange them so much that when you got it, because you got to see the Seahawks and you got to see the Rams. Not even worried about the Cardinals right now. Yeah, I'm not really worried about the Cardinals right now, but if you want, because we all the NFC is so beat up come playoff time. It's always a fight.
Yeah,
You could be 12-4 in second place, and then somebody comes in and is 13-3 and knocks you all the way down to fifth. So my thing would be, I got to see Russell Wilson, got to see Jared Goff. Getting to them is so important. I would literally start thinking of ways to put more speed on that front four, because the more speed you put out there, it's easier to catch up with Russell Wilson, even in year 9.
Yeah.
So I would look at seeing what we could do to put speed on there.
I agree with that. I would love to see that. I would love to see some more stunts being run and stuff like that, just from a defensive line perspective. You got to mix it up, man, because you figure with the teams that are playing out there, especially like you mentioned, because you got the Seahawks, you know what I mean? And you also got to look at the fact that in that division, they switch it up so much, man, with the offensive game plan. Like, you can't be like, okay, we know the Seahawks before used to be so run heavy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what they've
because
experienced in the last 2 years, right? Because they had Lynch, right? So they played to their strengths, and Pete Carroll knows how to do that. But the thing is, you figure in the last couple of years, these cats, to what they've seen happen at running back, man, with them, especially last year. I mean, they like, look, we may have to tweak this a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they got some receivers now, right? They got some guys they can throw to. But the thing is, man, having a quarterback like Russell Wilson, a very smart quarterback, right? He's going to get you the ball where it needs to go to. And at the end of the day, they got to use that more. I feel like they didn't utilize like Jimmy Graham as much when he was there. I don't feel like they did enough with him. But at the same time, man, with having Lynch and having guys like that in the backfield, it's just different. Your line was stout. You got to do what you got to do. Whatever's moving the ball, it moves the ball. At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I'm excited to see the adjustments that they make on the 49ers in. I think it'll be real cool, especially on the offensive side. Shanahan got something for that for sure. Defensively, like you said, go ahead and put some more speed on that front four, man. Let's see what they can do with it.
Yeah. And here's the big question in the pro football world today. What the fuck is going on in Atlanta, man?
Oh man, woo! I was supposing you on that. This is 2 weeks in a row now. Two weeks in a row. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I don't know what it is about. Let's get up ahead of these other teams and let's kind of just whatever. Now, I will say this, because it's funny talking about this now, because now we're looking at the Falcons in this way when this is something that Cleveland would do. Okay, in recent years, we've seen this happen to where they would get a lead like that, because you're like, you got enough talent to throw 20-something points on the board by the half. By the half, Mel, the half. All right, not the whole game, the half. So here you are at halftime, you got 3 touchdowns already or whatever it is, and you just giving the game up. How do you even wrap your brain around the fact that, okay, we already 3-4 touchdowns up, and all of a sudden it's like we lost the game? We're losing the game? What? Because you figure momentum changed, and you figure the mentality is different. Because if I'm in the locker room and I'm down 21-3 or 21-9 or something like that, I'm thinking, okay, we got a shot, but in the back of my head, like, can we catch up? I don't know. You know what I mean? But now, having that happen 2 weeks in a row, teams probably looking at them like, man, look, they could be up on us by 3 touchdowns.
And not only that,
chance.
And not only that, like, Nick Foles is the one who comes back on you. Nick goes down, gets hurt, and Nick Foles what is like? I'm sorry, but I was just looking at that game like, is this motherfucker's career like
It's
just to come back on people? Is he Frank Wright? Is he Frank Wright
right. Like you're the
2.0?
right. Like you're the 2 minute drill dude. Like you're the one that like, okay, I'm down.
Man,
You know, it's like 2 touchdowns I need or something. Who we gonna throw in? Nick Foles. Like really? Man. It's funny seeing it. It's so funny seeing it though. It's so funny, man. I
it's
cannot believe
not
two
fun.
weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row.
And for those young ones that watch the show or follow
Oh,
us, if you don't know who Frank Reich is, just go to your phone, go to your computer, type in the greatest comeback in NFL playoff history. The Houston Oilers and the Buffalo Bills will pop up on your screen. I guarantee it.
yes, it will.
And Frank Reich
Yes, it will.
led the comeback against the Houston Oilers and just demoralized anything Houston had going. And Houston at the time had Warren Moon, who's arguably still one of the greatest passers, if not the greatest passer in NFL history, just because this man, even at 40 something, when he came back again
Hmm.
for Minnesota, was still slinging darts and one of the hardest passers ever. Like just watching Nick Foles throw that last touchdown to put them to win the game, basically, it was like, dude, something got to give, man. And
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
know Falcons fans was eating it, man. I know some of my people, they Falcons fans, man. I got to put them on suicide watch. I hope ain't nothing wrong with them.
And all I gotta say to y'all is I've been there. Not that long ago, but I've been there. I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. Hey, it's people that be out here like, oh, I understand what you're going through and never went through it.
No, you don't.
Bruh, I've been through it. The brown and orange, bruh, I've been through it, seen it. And like I said, been recent.
Yeah,
Last 3, 4 years,
yeah.
we seen it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel for y'all. I really do. Speaking of which, I gotta put this on blast too. Let me tell you how wrong I was when I'm like, ooh, Bengals and the Eagles. So I'm like, okay, each team has lost to the teams that played today. So you figure the Bengals lost to the Browns, the Eagles lost to the football team. Excuse me. Sorry, I almost said the R word for you people who are going to get
Hey, Redskins,
offended
I'll say
or
it.
whatever.
I wrote it.
Oh, you know
I
what I'm
wrote it
saying?
in my recap today.
So, so with this game, I was like, okay, one of these teams are going to come out being 1-2. Oh my goodness, it's going to be great. Then I go back and check. I'm like, a
Even in
tie. So
this
y'all
just
still don't have a win. You still
shows
don't
you how
have a win.
this shows you how it
Oh,
works in COVID, man.
frustrating.
It show you what COVID doing. Even in the pandemic, you can still tie a game.
Tie a game, bro. I'm
Still,
like, between these two teams, I'm like somebody was gonna lose this game. Nope. Still
you
0
would
and
have
2
thought.
and 1. Yeah. I'm
Now,
like, bro, are you
now
kidding me?
here's before we talk about the other football that's going on now. I did want to bring this up. We talked about this last week, and it was
Hmm.
about the Browns and their start into the NFC East because it's been
Mm.
4 years later. Yeah, actually, it's been about between 4 and 6 years they play each other. And you
Yep.
were saying you didn't think that Dallas would lose to the Browns. Well, here's my thing. As I said last week, historically, the Browns are now 106, 63, and 4 against the entire division. And
Wow.
the
Wow.
Cowboys are coming off. The Cowboys are coming off another loss against the Seahawks, who are 3-0 right now.
Oh.
So, and here was the big stat for me. That I felt like, although I'm not a Browns fan, I'm still a football fan. So reality has to set in, and the reality is, like I said last week, I think the Browns could actually get 3 out of 4, if not sweep the whole division, if they keep the run game going. Today,
Hmm.
Chubb went 408 with 2. they also said they had to get to the quarterback because they're gonna have to get to Prescott a lot in order to disrupt, the passing game because everybody in the secondary is hurt. Ward may pretend he's cool, but we know he's still coming off that groin injury, and that ain't easy to come back from. So they got 3 sacks and 5 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles. Mm-hmm. I'm still sticking with my prediction that they'll take 3 out of 4. If they could, I said they had to get past Washington. They got past Washington, and they pretty much handled Washington. I mean, yeah, they had that little second quarter comeback or third quarter comeback, but still gave it up 5 times. No matter how you swing it, you can't score if you give them back the ball. So 2 out of 3 categories, they're scoring points. They're going into Dallas with an average of 34 points a game. They got 5 turnovers from Washington, and they got 3 sacks on Haskins. If they can keep that up, not to mention going into next week, they have the league's 6th best rushing defense. It's gonna say a lot because they're gonna give Zeke the ball. They're giving Zeke. It's coming. It's not gonna. They're not gonna hide it. They're going to give Zeke the ball. The 6th best rushing defense, the 17th best passing defense, but with 5 turnovers, 3 interceptions, and 2 fumbles, I'm thinking they could come out of this with the win if they come in with the right game plan.
I can see that now because beforehand, what made me nervous about all of this was just seeing the fact that they weren't at full strength on defense. And it made me a little worried at first because I'm like, okay, do they have the depth to be able to keep up? And at the same time, I guess they're at a part of their schedule where, other than Baltimore, they probably didn't really have to worry about that as much. I feel like, with Greedy being out, with Ward being out, and then, Mac Wilson isn't 100% yet, but he's coming back soon. And then looking at, what Garrett's been able to do the last couple of games, that's pretty exciting as well, too, getting a couple of sacks today. I was just nervous because I'm like, okay, are they going to be able to handle that? Is it going to be a situation where, like we saw today, even though they did win, you gave them 2 touchdowns to Inman. They shut down McLaurin, which was pretty cool to see, right? Because the dude does have a decent amount of speed. And having a guy like that linked up with your quarterback from the same school that you went to as well, known fact, that looks like it'll be something that'll be cool to check out too. But you could tell that he was targeting him too much as well. That's what really messed him up. Because the thing is, you figure if I got somebody who I'm dropping back to throw to, that I'm familiar with, that I played college ball with, now I'm in the NFL with as well, I'm still going to be looking their way a lot too. Dude had 8 targets today, caught 4 of them, right? But as a result, you got 3 different interceptions that happened. You fumbled a couple of times. It's like, were you trying to force it a little bit? What's the deal with that? And then on top of it, looking at this roster now, there's not a whole lot of weapons that Washington has when it comes to like receiving. So it's kind of like, okay, I had to make that choice. I had to go for, whoever I could at whatever level, whether it was receiver, tight end, all that. Totally get that, man. So I'm not going to knock them too hard, man, because they just got to work on the roster a little bit. You see that. But at the end of the day, I was thinking like, okay, I like the fact that the Browns had stood up to the challenge. They actually only gave up 2 sacks today. And seeing what they were able to do, with Chase Young out there and Willis coming off an injury and all of that, Oh, he was hurt.
Yeah, he was out. They ruled him out.
Oh, he was
on
out.
the sideline, so he didn't.
Okay.
You didn't really have to worry about him today. Probably won't see him again for another 4 years.
Dang. Yeah, because I was sitting there thinking like, man, that's going to be an interesting matchup, and then it's like, oh, well, that factors out. So where's the pass rush? I don't know. But the thing is, man, what I want to point out too as well with this game is Baker did a very good job today. He,
of course,
only threw for 156, right? But they ain't have to because that running game was stout, right? On top of that, when we look at this stat, dude had a 117 rating, okay? And it's funny, so I sent you this last week talking about how he was right behind Lamar Jackson, right? And he's still on pace for that. Plus, he did throw a pick today, which was good to see too. and he averaged about 6.8 yards per throw. So he was doing his thing, man. It was cool. It was cool to actually see it, even against someone like Washington. At the end of the day, he's still an
But this
NFL
all
team, right?
yeah, you're right. But this all goes back to what I said. If you get the run game going, you
Hmm.
got mutants back there. You got Colossus and dare I say Wolverine back there. So
Yeah,
if you give them the ball, no way in any way, shape, or form, if you give them to the ball, there is not much you need to do. You let them do it.
nope,
You got
exactly.
Chubb back there. You got Hunt back there. Chubb is he gets hit and he keeps moving. Kareem Hunt is just strong by nature. He was strong at high school. He was
True.
strong at Toledo. If you just put the ball in his hands, and he's a dynamic pass catching running back. So I like I said, if you give them the ball and just let them dictate the pace, you don't have too much to worry about. And he
That's
didn't.
true.
He was 16 to 23. He only missed 7 passes. So that 117 rating, I understand it. No picks today. He didn't have to do much. And going into
Nope.
Dallas, I feel like this is something you're going to have to stick with because if you don't, that's where you're going to cause yourself problems.
Absolutely. Like, don't let it be a situation where you got him dropping back, trying to throw, 40, 50 passes in the game. Like, please don't do that. Please don't do that, right? Your running game is working. And we saw this, like, no, you know what? I'm not even going to say that. We didn't just see this last year. We saw it 2 years ago. The running game has
Right.
been working. And last year was like, what are you doing? They kept trying to go away from it. I'm like, when you got these two in the backfield, because you went out your way to go sign Hunt, and then you barely utilized the cat in the
Yeah.
run game last year, which made no sense at all, right? And only thing they did use him for was like, okay, passing, third down conversion, stuff like that, because the dude know how to get open. You know what I'm saying? And this is the beauty of a H back coming from a max school in a spread situation, okay, you have to learn how to run some routes. You have to have some hands. It's not just going to be me handing it off to you or tossing it or whatever it
Yeah.
is. You got to be that multi talented player at different levels. You're not just going to be running the ball, you're
And
going to be doing everything.
that helps,
And that
and
translates
that
right
helps
now.
Hunt.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does.
Exactly. Exactly. And Stefanski's like, I got a running back on this level now I'm dealing with. Oh, yeah, we're about to turn this up a little bit. Because you figure he was
And he's
there, back when Peterson was there, but it was like the higher end, what I'm saying, a little bit different. When you got somebody like Hunt in your backfield, you like, all right, we know we got Chubb that can run it down your throat, but we got Hunt too. This 1-2 combo, man, they're not ready for it if they utilize it properly.
and they have been. If you notice, then this is the last thing I'm gonna say about it. If you pay attention
Yeah.
from the start of the season till today, it's
Hmm.
translated, like you said, and it's improved because it's Baltimore. Baltimore's front seven has been less. I'm not gonna say less than spectacular, but nothing less than spectacular for years. There's no secret.
Right.
Even if they suck
Absolutely.
in the secondary, that front seven is gonna scare the shit out of you. So there's
Hmm.
no drop off there. So I expected
Exactly.
them to shut down Cincinnati. Uh, Hunt and Chubb go off. Chubb goes for 100 yards. Hunt scores a touchdown, catching the ball, coming out the backfield. He running the ball. They don't know who's getting it. And then
Hmm.
today, it's the same thing. You don't know if Hunt's gonna touch the ball in the backfield or if they're gonna line him up or if they're gonna come in like send him out the backfield. And on top of that, you
Exactly.
still got to deal with Chubb. So I think as a fan, to see them improving week to week with the run game, and this is the second time. So Chubb has back to back 100-yard games.
Hmm.
Um, it's about to get scary, man. If Stefanski keeps with this formula he's got, it's about to get scary. It's about to get real scary.
Absolutely. And on top of that, for them to be 2-1 after like just the first three games is, unheard of for them usually. And then
Not since
also to
what 2012, I believe, 2014,
yeah,
12,
it's been
14,
a
one of
minute. It's been a minute. And on top of that, not only did that happen, but they've now scored, was it 30 plus points the last two games in a row?
them.
You know
They
what I mean? And
they're
if
averaging 30 points a game going into Dallas, man.
and that's the difference right there, man. You figure 35 last week, 34 today. They've definitely clicked. It was good to see that. And it'll be interesting to see what they do when they do go into Dallas and then the following week having the Colts. So you figure with them having these next two games, it's going to tell you a lot. It'll be interesting to see them do that before they do the next two AFC North games following that. So, I'm excited about it, man. I really hope that it's not, just the flavor of the week. I hope it is something that we'll see for a while and they do get better each week. And with them having the, what, 9 or 10 days it was to prepare for Washington, it definitely showed. I mean, yeah, they had a hiccup in the first half, but they went in there and made adjustments, man. And shout out to them for getting it done, man. This is cool. What else
All
you
right.
got for us, man? What's up, man?
Truthfully, I'm calling a revenge game because the last time the Browns went to Jerry World, they lost, and that was in 2012. So I'm calling it right now. It's going to be a revenge game. It's going to be a tough one, but it's going to be a revenge game. But since you asked me what else I got, yesterday, the world of college football came back to us yet again. And for those that are fans, the SEC started play.
Woo.
And this Georgia loving SOB over here. And okay, we're not even gonna talk about Georgia because first off, it's Arkansas. You're allowed to screw up at least once. It's Arkansas. I ain't nobody cared about Arkansas since Darren McFadden was there. So we're gonna skip
And Peyton
that.
Hillis.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, we're
Sorry,
gonna skip.
I had to. Sorry.
It's cool. It's cool. But we're gonna skip that game for the moment. We're gonna go to the game that you texted me about, which was
Mm.
Kansas State and Oklahoma.
Ooh. Ooh.
Unranked
Yeah.
Kansas State, unranked Kansas State beats Oklahoma by 3 in the final second. But
Mm-hmm.
let's not forget the second half, and not even the second half, in the fourth quarter alone, Kansas State scored 17 unanswered.
Mm.
So, with that being said, what does that say for the state of Oklahoma going into the rest of the season? Because even though it's a young season, you are not supposed to lose to Kansas State.
No, you are not. No, you are not. Here's the thing. This is what I was laughing about. To have that happen and to know that this year you're playing just conference opponents, at the end of the day, man, you can't be doing that. You just can't. Especially with Kansas State.
Yeah,
I can't remember the last time they've been, decent, I would say. I remember last time they were ranked, but like decent, like it was just cool to see them put that on, to have all those unanswered points in that comeback win. For me, I feel like if you're Oklahoma, with the type of coaching they have, maybe they look at it and go, okay, we came out a little flat. Maybe we didn't practice as much as we could have
a
because of the
little.
pandemic. Well, yeah. But the thing is, like, to not be able to execute the way that you should have been able to execute and to let, a team like that come back on you, that's definitely got to be demoralizing for a team, first of all, because at the end of the day, these are kids still. They're not professionals yet, for the ones that will cross over, right? So for them mentally, it's like, man, that's the first game. Like, what the rest of the season look like? It got to be in the back of your head. You know what I mean? But for me, it's like, okay, what is the coaching going to do to be able to keep them motivated, to let them know, like, hey, it's not done yet. You still got at least a conference title to play for or whatever. That's going to be the biggest question because to drop one like this, are you going to be able to actually make the necessary adjustments to get back to where you should be at? That's kind of where I'm
I'm for
stuck at with this team. So,
well, I'll say this. I'll say this, and then we'll move on to the next game. COVID did something right. And I don't even think this was a COVID thing. I think this was the football guys speaking because
Hmm.
once they said conference only, I knew it was some teams that was gonna get screwed. And I don't mean
Yep.
like unfairly, but like it was gonna be a game or two that they were gonna walk into that they were not expecting.
Yep.
This Kansas State game for Oklahoma is one of them because nobody's got, and this goes for everybody, predominantly with the exception of the independents, mainly BYU,
Hmm.
I believe Army, and a couple other teams. Liberty, I know is one of them. You don't have a tune-up game. You don't have that team
Nope.
you could just beat on from the FCS at the beginning of the season to get your shit right. You're playing to win right now, and you can't handle it. Because if you let Kansas State, who hasn't been good for a while, they were unranked. If you let
Hmm.
them come in and score 17 unanswered, not six, not 10, they scored 17 unanswered in the fourth quarter. You got problems. Not to mention, the Big 12 is pass happy. So think about who you about to see next. Just in no particular order. Texas Tech, Baylor's still pissed off from last year about losing to you, and you got to see Texas
Hmm.
still. And Sam Ellinger lit it up the other day. So you're if you don't have if you didn't have it going into this Kansas State game, chances are you're not gonna bounce back. And if you do bounce back, it's not gonna be the way you thought it would be. You may hold on to get a share. Well, I can't even say a share of the conference no more because they still got the Big 12 title game now. So
True.
you better hope you sneak your way back in to the title game race because losing to Kansas State not only hurts, but does not score in the fourth quarter is what's going to hurt you even more.
Exactly. Exactly.
And moving on from that, the second game with a surprise in it, defending champ LSU
Mm.
gets downed by Mississippi State, 44-34.
Sorry.
I because we was just talking about that LSU syndrome. They're good for that one
Oh
national
man.
championship year. In the next couple of
Yep.
years, they go and screw it up somehow.
Oh man.
Okay, it's Mississippi State. So granted, I'm gonna give LSU. I'm not gonna give them a mulligan, but I'm gonna give them that. All right, you get it together now
Man.
because you have the defense. You have the defense.
Yeah.
People on offense, especially Joe Burrow, Heisman winning quarterback. But I'm not going to give y'all a free pass on this. You should not have lost to Mississippi State because one, it's Mississippi State. Two, you were at home.
Mm.
There's no way you lose in Death Valley. And number three, you lost by 10 to Mississippi State.
Mm.
Is it the LSU syndrome kicking in, or was this just Mississippi State actually being prepared to beat LSU?
I feel like Mississippi State was just prepared more. But what I'm scared about, because we had talked about this defense, man, and you let this cat throw 623 yards on you and 5 touchdowns. I am like nervous for them. Because even game one, I get it. You're going to mess up a little bit. You haven't had the tune up games. We know this is all true. But 623, dude, we're talking NCAA football, EA Sports stats. Like
Yeah.
600 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. I cannot remember the last time I saw a quarterback throw that many yards and that many touchdowns in a game, right? That was nowhere near on the same level as Burrow coming out. Like this right here just had me like, what are y'all doing? I don't know. They will bounce back. I'm not gonna, down them like that. But to give up that much, Edgeron gonna have a heart attack. That dude gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at him like seeing how red and puffy he was, man. I don't know. I'm just sitting there like I don't know what y'all gonna do, but they'll make an adjustment. They still got the talent to do it. You know what I'm saying? But I don't necessarily want to say that is
It's
one of
just
those
funny,
off
man.
years for them. But like, I'm trying not to be like, ha ha, you know what I mean? Just based off of what happened in the SEC title game last year. But at the same time, man, 620. Get it
That
together,
is a lot.
LSU. That's all I gotta say. Get it together, man.
That is a lot.
Get it together. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Just get it
Now,
together, man. Horrible.
prime time game. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But we'll see. Prime time game. The rivalry we all look forward to. It's supposed to be happening next month, but it happened this month because of COVID and conference only games. Florida State, FSU. And I was not expecting this, but the Canes dragged Florida State through the mud and put 52, not 52, 52, 50 on the Seminoles. 52-10 was the final score. My question to you before we get into the next part of that discussion: are they for real this year, or are they progressing just enough to not look like fools?
I feel like it's a progression. I really do. I feel like you give them one more season, man. It's happening. You know what I'm saying? If they can keep up with the recruiting the way they've been doing and just seeing how the coaching's adjusted, man, it'll be interesting to see what they do the rest of this year. I feel like next year they definitely will be in those talks. They were looking like the OU, man. It was cool. It was real cool
They
to
were
see what they did last night. It was looking like the OU. Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I can't even sit here like I'm not excited about it. Yeah. I was I was waiting for them to have this moment. Like I'm not a Miami fan like necessarily, but like just to see them go through what they went through the last like 6 years, whatever it is, man, and to see this moment was just powerful. So it's like, can we say the U is back? I don't know. But what I will say though is it was exciting just to see them do what they did. And I just really, really hope that they are truly, who we think they are in the worlds of, Coach Green. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, I really want them to take advantage of opportunities like this and do that for the program, man. Make it so that we have a bright spot in the ACC other than Clemson that's really going to bring it back together. Because you figure for North Carolina to be as decent as it is this year, and then for Miami to wake up, right? Clemson been doing their thing for the last 4 or 5 years or whatever. And if you can get one or two more of these teams to wake up the same way, it'll be a different discussion that we get to have now about the ACC. So I'm really hoping that happens, man. I really do. It's just been a minute. It's been a while, man.
And it's funny that you mentioned Clemson because yes, the Canes will have the week off if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the week off. October 10th, they're at Clemson.
Ooh.
So
Hey.
I'm not gonna say what I'm gonna say is this. What I'm gonna say is, I hope they are for real because this game on the schedule, this game alone, because let's be honest. If you wipe the floor, you ran through UAB, you won a shootout with Louisville, and you ran through Florida State again, which it's a rivalry game, so you expect to play them tough, and you expect to play you tough. So this game on the schedule, Pitt, I don't see enough from Pitt to make me believe they pick could win that game.
Right.
They did have some trouble with UVA, as did Clemson at the beginning of the championship game. NC State is NC State. Virginia Tech is another rivalry game. Then you got
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Tech. You finish out the season with Georgia Tech, Wake, and UNC. And UNC will probably be your toughest game, but you got a long way to go before you get to them. And ironically, if I'm reading this right, nope. Are they going to do the standings this way? Well, whatever the case is, for the moment, until my computer stops being retarded, um, for the moment, I will say I think they're for real because you don't just put 52 up on Florida State like that. Not the way that they did it. A shootout maybe, but to just completely dominate the game, it don't happen.
Right.
So going into this Clemson game on October 10th, I hope they're for real because if you can, even if you lose this game, if you can keep this game close, you'll see them again.
True.
If you, I don't know if they're breaking off the ACC in because from what it's looking like, it doesn't look like they will do the divisions again. But
Mm-hmm.
if they do the conference championship, you may see them again, especially if you take out Virginia. So
True.
if they hold on enough to just keep the game close, even if they lose, they'll see them again, and I think they'll be better prepared. If they get dog walked, just watch the rest of the season. Yeah, you beat Florida State, but you got to beat Clemson to actually get back to where you want to be. So
True.
we'll see. I hope they are. I sincerely hope they're for real because that would be great. That would be great. Not even for the ACC. That would just be great for the state of college football.
Oh yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to talk about, and we all saw it last night. Bron's in the finals yet again. It'll be his 10th trip to the finals. I'm asking you this, do you think he wins this year?
Yeah, I do. I feel like he wins this year. It's the opportunity is definitely there. People for the most part were trying to predict that it would be like a Laker Milwaukee thing, which we see obviously it's not. And the way it's looking now, LeBron might be facing his old team. So that's going to be a little different. And I feel like in this type of setup, he definitely has the opportunity to, win the title this year. The threats that I thought he was going to have against him are not there anymore. And I also feel like with this year, it's one of those situations where he'll probably like ease into it a little bit. I don't see like a sweep, you know what I mean? Maybe another 5-game series or a 6-game series to make it entertaining. Um, but I think that he'll definitely win the next ring this year. I do. I really do. That supporting cast he has and the way that Anthony Davis has been balling in the playoffs, man, that dude woke up. Like during the season, he had some good
Yeah,
games. We're not going to hate, but the playoffs, especially, Anthony Davis been killing. And to be honest, he won 2 of them games for them, man. Especially that buzzer
yeah,
beater. So
yeah,
at the end of the day, it's like without Davis on the team, I'll be like, whatever, we'll see. You know what I'm saying? But having that dude right there with you, and the fact that you can actually sit on the bench and he can still keep that momentum going with you on the
yeah,
bench,
yeah.
yeah, they got it. They got it. They
Well,
got it.
it's not gonna be easy because I just checked my ticker line and it will be a Heat versus Lakers series or NBA Finals. The Heat
Wow.
beat the Celtics 125-113. They win the series 4
Mm,
to 2. So the Heat and the Lakers will be in the finals. Like I said before, I I think LeBron has too much motivation,
yep.
which is not a bad thing. But again, I'm not a LeBron hater. I'm not a LeBron fan. But reality is the truth. The man has been the best or in the top discussion for the best player the last 18 years. That's how long he's
Exactly.
been in the league.
Exactly.
Not to mention, he should have more MVPs. Yeah, you're gonna bring up the ring argument. Who doesn't? But let's look at the reality here. The game has changed from the days of Jordan to LeBron. You
Exactly.
know, there were two All Stars on any given team when the Jordan was playing. Now there are at least six, maybe. You know, and that's
Yep.
just All Stars. We're not talking about like dynasty teams or anything like that. So it's you snubbed him for MVP. You basically put him on Kobe's team. You lose Kobe in January, and you don't think he has enough motivation to do it for his friend and do it
Exactly.
for the Lakers. I think, and like I said, I thought this would be a chance for him to steal one because of the pandemic.
Hmm.
I don't even think he's going to steal it anymore because with all the motivation that he has, this to him is personal now. To me, it looks personal.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this dude's probably gonna come out and have a double double every game, and if he has to do a triple double, he'll do that. And on top of that, he's one of those guys where yeah, he could bust 50 if he wants to when he feels like it. But he's just a team player who's going to distribute it out. And I think that's the biggest difference when you talk about the GOAT or you talk about, top players and stuff like that. A lot of top players don't distribute, man. A lot of top players do not distribute.
Yeah,
They want to take it over. They want to be,
not like that.
that killer. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. I mean, this dude is pass first all the time. The fact that he can get
Yeah,
an average of 35 points while looking to distribute the ball first, that's unheard of from his position. I mean, from a point guard, yeah, but he's
yeah.
essentially a point guard. If you think about it. But the thing is, like the way he
He
plays,
might as well
man, he tries to
take a
make
big
everybody
ass.
better. Yeah, for sure. And when people
And
forget
he
is when he
had,
first got drafted, that's what he had to do when he first got drafted. He was playing point.
and that's the quality about him. I like that stuff because he had the, like you said, Mo Williams, not even Mo Williams. It was Larry Hughes, Z, Eric Snow. Like you can't expect those dudes to just go off every night. Eric Snow might get you 6 points a game if
Right.
at that
If
point,
that.
you know. So it's to me going into this finals, it's a lot of motivation there, and I don't think I don't think it's enough motivation for the Heat to say we're gonna quiet that. I think that they get. I give it six. I give it six if LeBron gives away game one like he normally does, just to see what they
True.
do. But
Hmm.
with him being snubbed for MVP and just the overall dynamic of the season, I'm seriously thinking he takes game one, gives them game three, and then it's a wrap after that. I want to give him
Right.
six,
I
but
agree
my
with that.
heart's telling me want to give him six, but my heart's telling me it's 4-1 by the time the finals are over.
Dead on, man.
We'll see. All right, folks. That is our episode for tonight. We like to thank Herb Perez for being on the show. We also like to thank our surprise guest, the Panther Eric Betts, and Christine Lady Lightning Rodriguez for giving Herb a good and we hope you guys continue to follow us, especially on Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. Um, we're not gonna have a Sunday show for October. We're gonna have a Monday show. So Monday, October 5th, be our next live show. Don't forget to check that out because when we post who's gonna be on the show, you guys are gonna lose it. I know I'm trying hard not to lose it. I'm pretty sure Ronnie's trying hard not to lose it as well.
Hmm.
Just keep with us. No, don't forget to check the page. Um, I'm going to talk to you after the show because I did have a question for you. I can't ask you on the air because I don't have all the information that I need. So I'm going to wait till we get off the air. But for you guys at home, thank you for watching. For 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth, I'm Mel and Smooth. Peace.